Welcome to the Her First podcast, a platform to help online business owners, coaches, and creators gain the confidence needed to build a successful business while creating a sustainable lifestyle balance. We are here to help you prioritize yourself in business and life. I'm Joanna Newton.
And I'm Michelle Puolani. In this podcast, along with the Her First Collective, you can engage in the challenges women face in business, ways to increase your impact or income online, and how to make it all work while launching, scaling, or maintaining. Spoiler, it's not about perfectionism, hustling, or a copy-paste methodology. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Her First podcast. We are so excited to have a very special guest today, Kathi Reuter. She is a mindset coach and podcaster. Today, we're going to talk about her journey in business. You're going to learn all about her background, the struggles that she's been through, and exactly how she's been able to help other coaches, business owners, and online digital entrepreneurs overcome income plateaus and find success in their business. So welcome so much, Kathi. We're very excited to have you here today.
Hey, Michelle, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and start with a little bit of background. How did you get into what you're doing? And tell us more about your story.
Okay, I love talking about my story here because if you had asked me like 15 years ago what I'd be doing right now, it would have never been what I'm doing today. But I'll kind of flash back to when I used to be a teacher. I actually started out going to school, getting my master's degree in special education and my degree in elementary education. And I was an elementary school teacher for 10 years before I had kids. But I always knew that once I had my own children, I didn't want to miss out on the moments with them. And I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I have 3 kids, ages 11, 10, and 4.5 right now. And when I had my firstborn, I resigned from my teaching career and I just thought that I was going to just stay at home and do nothing. And that was going to be it. And my husband was going to be the one making the income and all of that. But what we learned really quickly is that even though he had a really great job and I was tutoring most nights of the week to earn an income, we realized just how expensive it is to have children. And at this point, I had been home for almost 2 years, I want to say. And we were back against the wall at this point. So we had depleted our entire savings account, living off of this one income. We had racked up almost $40,000 in credit card debt. We were sinking by $1,000 every single month. And that was when I was first introduced to this idea of online business. And I am a very much type of person that when there's a problem, I want the solution and I'm just going to act on it. And so my back was against the wall and someone told me about, hey, you could start your own health and fitness business from home and you could, build it however you want to build it, work it whenever you want to work it, prioritize time with your kids and earn an income while you're doing it. You could do both. And so I was like, great, that's what I'm going to do. So I actually started out doing that. I started out in the health and fitness industry. Everyone was saying that I was going to be wasting my time. They didn't believe that it would ever amount to anything. Love when that happens, right? They're like, this is just a waste of your time. This is so stupid. And when people say those kinds of things to me, I've always been the type of person where I want to prove you wrong. And so that for me is just fuel to my fire. And so very quickly, in under a year, I built a 6-figure business at my kitchen countertop, basically being home with my children and working during nap times and working at nights once they went to bed. And I absolutely loved it. But what I noticed was, and I did that for about 10 years, but what I noticed through that whole journey, right, I would train other women and teach them how to build health and fitness businesses from home so that they could have more time with their family. And I noticed this whole theme with these women who wanted it so bad and they would be showing up and they'd be putting in the work and they'd be going to the trainings, they'd be going through the workshops, they would be taking action in their business and their income wasn't growing. And when I would coach them, I realized that the one thing that they were missing was their mindset piece. They had let failures from their past or the fact that I should be further along than I am right now keep them stuck. And it didn't matter how much action they were taking, they were never going to grow their business because at the end of the day, right, we know that it's your thoughts that give you the results around you. And if you don't have good thoughts, you're not going to take inspired action. And so it's so much more than just taking the action. It has to be inspired action in your business every day. So for about 2 years, I had this idea that, I really would just love to create my own mindset program because this is the missing link for these entrepreneurs. They're so focused on, what do I do? Tell me what to do next. Where do I go? But if they could get this piece figured out straight, then all the training would work for them. Then the action that they took would be inspired and they'd get the results that they'd want and they'd be more confident and have more happiness and fulfillment in their life. And now on paper, this business that I was building initially, the health and fitness one, I mean, you would have thought I would be crazy to not want to do that anymore and to start something brand new because on paper, it was, multi six-figure income. I knew exactly what I was doing. My whole entire social media was all revolved around this business. Everybody knew me for this. And it's like, why would you walk away from that? But when you have that, feeling on your heart for so long, it never goes away until you actually take the action on it. But for 2 years, I kept shoving that idea down, that thought down. And I kept hearing these little voices in my head like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you start back at the beginning? What if it doesn't work out to give you the same success this business, gave you? And then finally, after 2 years of ignoring it, I just drew the line in the sand and said, forget it. I am doing this. I'm going all in. I told my husband, he was like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, I'm launching my Do Life Big podcast and I'm going to go into business by design and I'm going to create my mindset accelerator program. And I'm going to work with online entrepreneurs and I'm going to help them get over this so that they don't have to stay stuck at a plateau like I had been stuck at for so long. And so that kind of brings me to where we are today. So it's quite the journey and you just never really know what's going to happen. But most important thing is that you have to listen to that intuition and act on it.
I'm so excited to be talking about mindset with you today. I know this is something Michelle and I really think is so important because when your mind is right, your actions are right, the results come, the outcomes happen. We've seen it in our own lives. But before we dig in deeper, I want to touch on some of why this is so important. Income plateaus are real. And if you're working a 9 to 5 or even have your own business already, you know that inflation is like a real thing for us right now, where little percentage salary increases or little bits of growth in your business are not going to keep up with actual real life expenses. There was an article this week in CNBC that talked about the average household income a family of 4 needed to live comfortably. What I don't know how they defined comfortably, but live comfortably, probably meaning you're not paycheck to paycheck. You have, money for the things that you need and want without being extravagant, right? Like not luxury. In Massachusetts, that was $300,000 a year. In Massachusetts.
That's insane.
That was the number one. Isn't that insane?
It is insane.
It's insane. And I think the low end was it was the state of Mississippi for $177,000 a year.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's insane. So if you're expecting your salary job to help you with that, you're out of luck. Even your successful business, if you're a freelancer, you're doing coaching yourself, making $300,000 a year is hard, right? And if you want to be able to live comfortably, build wealth, grow in that way, you have to start thinking differently about this because just working more hours, just working harder, just hustling more isn't going to do it.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And that's what I saw happen. And I actually saw it happen to myself too before I even decided to create this program and go down this path where the mistake that I had made, I was stuck at a 6-figure income plateau and I was stuck there for like 2+ years. And I was someone who was really hauling some serious ass in business. I mean, I really did. When they say 10x what you're doing, I was like, the problem is I'm at an income plateau. My solution is clearly I need to work more. I need to work harder. I need to work longer. I need to invest in a business coach. I need to just stay up later. I need to 10x what I'm doing. I need to listen to more personal development and more podcasts and whatnot. And then if I just can do that and keep pumping the well and stay consistent with that, then my income plateau will finally break. And it never did. And the reason why it didn't was because I did not realize that at the root of the problem I had attributed this income plateau to me being a failure and me not being cut out to go as far as I had hoped with that business. The underlying problem was that I attached meaning to that income plateau. I had made that income plateau mean something negative personally about myself as an entrepreneur, as a leader, instead of just keeping that plateau as just data, right? And just neutral, keeping the event neutral, just as data, something to learn from. Instead, I was like, I must be doing something wrong. Clearly, I'm not cut out to go as far as I had hoped with this. Let's figure this out. And that thought was in my subconscious and was behind every action that I took. And that's why I always say, with those subconscious thoughts that we have, if they're limiting and they're negative like that, it's your thoughts that produce the feelings that you have. At the end of the day, when I sat down to work the business, even though I was taking action, my feeling was always like, oh God, let's see if this is going to work today. Let's see if this is going to be the day when something actually changes. And then that feeling just made me be like, taking the action, but it was just going through the motions, hamster on a wheel. It was not inspired action. And then it was those actions that led to the result that I was getting, which was a continued plateau, which just solidified that original belief of I'm not cut out to go as far as I had hoped for. Just be grateful. That was another limiting belief I had. Just be grateful for how far you've come. You never wanted it to grow this big to begin with. You only wanted to earn a couple $100s to stay at home with your children. And so we have to learn how to keep these external circumstances and the things that happen in our business as neutral and not attach meaning to them so that we can continue to have confidence and have inspired action in our business every day, and we continue to grow and we feel fulfilled and all of that. So that was where I went wrong. And that's where I saw so many other entrepreneurs go wrong too in their business. It's not that they didn't want it. It was just their mind wasn't wired for success. It needed to be reprogrammed, which is what I had to do to myself as well.
We get in a vicious cycle. It's that cyclical pattern of if we think we can do this, then that will be the thing that happens that gets us there. If we can invest in this thing, then that's going to be the thing that gets us there. If we can just get past this, then that's going to be the thing that helps us. And you're so invested in the outcome at that point. There's so much expectation and pressure that you're putting on yourself in order to succeed. So you're not staying neutral. I did this for so long. I put my value in the success that I was seeing in my business. That meant if I was launching a program and the launch didn't go well, that was a reflection of me as a human being and as a person. I'm not good enough. I am not the right person. I am fill in any blank that told me for whatever reason that I wasn't the person that people wanted to invest in, and there was something wrong with the way that I was showing up or what I was doing.
Yep.
And it took me so long and has taken me so long to even get to the point where I've realized that the person that I am is exactly who I'm supposed to be in order to present myself as a personal brand and build my business. But I was so invested in the outcome, the expectation, and the pressure, especially in comparison. The comparison that I was feeling to everyone else in the digital space around me, which is so common and easy to do because that's what you're tuned into. Social media, newsletters, the groups that you join, whatever environment you're putting yourself into, often we surround ourselves with people who are doing similar things, which is really positive, and that can be really encouraging. But if we make their success about our worthiness important, then it will completely deter you from your path and how you're supposed to be showing up. And I say supposed to in the essence of who you are, what you're here to do, your purpose, and how you're meant to speak, teach, and educate. And so I have gotten lost in this for far too long. And finally, I'm at this place where I feel like I can overcome that and step into my role, my position, my coaching, my programs, everything that I'm doing and building my business around with confidence. So I think that the mindset piece is really important. So we've talked a little bit about why the mindset piece is important, but I also think that, Kathi, mindset is such a loose term, right? It's this idea that we see in programs, in products. We talk about it on social media. Get your mindset right. focus on your mindset, fix your mindset, do these things with your mindset. Can you kind of break down for us what that looks like on a day-to-day basis, or how it's showing up in someone's life that they can kind of connect to, relate to, and understand that mindset might be something they're dealing with as well?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And as just to kind of backtrack to what you were just saying about how you had to work through all that yourself, it's funny because when I was going through the similar situation with that six-figure income plateau about 5 years ago, once I made that connection that it was really my thoughts that were causing it, and I couldn't break free from that, then I flashed back to my life and I realized, oh my gosh, I have been doing this my entire life. Literally, I started thinking of all these different stories. I grew up playing basketball and, I wanted to try out for this and I was really good at it, but I tried out for this travel basketball team and I didn't make it. And because I didn't make it, I made it mean you suck at basketball. And then I just didn't go on after that. And it's like, well, you don't suck at basketball. You were great at basketball. You just didn't make the team, right? And I did the same thing with, when I had to do the teacher test. You have to take the teacher test in Massachusetts. This was back in Massachusetts so many times. And I didn't pass it on the first time. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like you're just not smart enough. And then I flashed back to when I was in second grade and I had trouble with math and the teacher putting this huge 0 on my paper and literally saying, what are you, stupid? Like these things were just ingrained in my head and I attached so much meaning to them. So yeah, it's so important to work through them. But when we talk about mindset, I am specifically talking about, like for me anyways, and how I help the people that I help. When you have a certain idea to do something and you have that calling on your heart and you can hear almost like the little whisper in your mind, which is, all your limiting beliefs. I actually refer to this as your little bitch voice. And then I say there's your rock star voice. So like the little bitch voice is anytime, you get up for the day, you start your day and, you have this idea, okay, today is going to be the day where I really wanted to start this new program. I really wanted to start this new book. And then you hear that little voice, don't do that. Every time you start something, you never finish it anyways. Don't even bother. That is like the mindset piece that I'm talking about. That's like the little bitch voice, that little inner voice that is constantly on your shoulder every time you're maybe in a situation with people and you're talking and they're talking about a topic and you really want to speak up, but you feel that people are going to judge you for what you're going to say, or maybe you're going to be too much, or all of that, just showing little factors of perfectionism and procrastination. That is what I attribute to like the mindset piece, because when you can fix all of those internal thoughts in your subconscious, that little bitch voice, and you learn to just slam the door on its face and listen to your rock star voice instead, all of that goes away and doesn't happen nearly as frequently as it is because you're just on autopilot every day going through the motions.
I really like that analogy. And one thing that makes me think, because for my personal journey, thinking about mindset and thinking of all of this, one thing that I'm trying to grapple between is understanding like what's my little bitch voice and what's actually like objective reality.
Mm.
I handle a lot of the operations, procedures, and all of those things for my company. So when we have an idea, I have to look at all of the pieces that have to get done. What's a realistic timeline? What's all of those things? And I have to think of what could go wrongs? What do we have to be aware of? Like objectively, I have to think like that.
Yep.
And then how do I piece together the actual need to be objectively critical,
Mm.
or me having a little bitch voice just telling me that it's not possible in that time frame? Because, am I limiting myself, or am I thinking critically and being objective in a good way? And how do you do that, right? Because I don't also want to be like delusional. Maybe being delusional would be a good thing, right? But like, how do you balance those things?
I tend to steer towards more the delusional way. Honestly, I think it's okay to be a little delusional. Listen, I think it's okay to maybe raise the bar and have higher standards and expectations for yourself, like with your career that you're doing. and raise the bar higher like that. And it might seem like it's being delusional because the higher that you set it, the faster you're going to be able to grow and help get to where you want to go versus if you're just scarcity mindset. I feel like when it comes to like your job, for example, a lot of the thinking might be coming down to, I really think that we could go in this direction and I think we should do this, but what is everybody else going to say and how are they going to handle it if it doesn't happen? You know? And then that can be rooted in the scarcity. And so, I mean, I would challenge you to, it's all about that trusting that initial like intuition about it and not listening to that little bitch voice and just I would just go for it, honestly. That this is how I operate. It's done me well so far. Obviously, you're not going to reach every single goal that you set for the company, but you're better to be overly ambitious than shrink down and listen to that little bitch voice because you're worried that you may not reach it. What if you do reach it? How do you know that you're not going to reach it unless you actually try and set out to it? Right? You don't really know that to be true unless you actually say it and then try to make it happen.
Yeah, what do they say? Shoot for the moon and land upon the stars.
Yeah.
I think that I've spent so much time being rational and thinking, oh, this is the safe choice. Oh, I should stick with this position. I should not move there. I should do this thing in order to keep myself protected and do the quote unquote smart thing overall. But when I look back to those decisions, if it's not a full feeling of regret, it's a what if I had. And it's something that I feel like I dampened. And Joanna, you and I have talked about this on the podcast before, is that we should be feeling failure. We should be setting goals that are too high. What is too high? But we should be setting goals that are outside of our reach and working towards those things. Because also, we're sometimes putting an unrealistic timeline on them, or we're thinking that we have to accomplish them in a certain time frame, and then we haven't, and then therefore we've failed. But what if it happens a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 years from now, 10 years down the road? We have a lot of time to accomplish these big goals and opportunities. And I think that it is smart, Joanna, and you know that you have that sense of like, we've got to do. When you were talking about delusion, I was like, get me super delusional over here because I don't have a full concept of reality sometimes because I have these very, very big visions of what I want to accomplish. Doesn't matter that anyone in my family has never had a successful multi-six-figure to $1 million, multi-million-dollar billion, dare I say, business. It doesn't matter that my circumstances at the time of this recording are not a reflection of what I'm working towards or where I want to be. And you're right, Joanna, I could be more realistic. Not that that was aimed at me at all. But
it was not at all.
Talk about throwing you under the bus.
I just internalize everything that you say.
Yeah,
but
I was not
don't do that now.
on you at all.
But for me, I'm invested in the delusion of these opportunities and the potentials. And you know what? If we didn't have that delusional attitude, I think from the get-go of what was possible, it's like we didn't used to be able to fly in the sky. And now I can get in an airplane and go across the world. You know, there are all these things that have been realized because someone had some sort of delusional idea. Now, am I saying that if you're listening, that on a day-to-day basis, you should just completely quit everything and transform your life and say, Michelle told me to do it? It's what I'm shooting for? Not necessarily. Like, I do think that you should take calculated actions and risks and consider those things. But just like Kathy's saying, I think that there's something that pulls us from internal, whether it's on your heart or a part of your soul's purpose. There's something deeper that sometimes lives within us that we have been shoving down. And that has looked like external feedback, whether that was a teacher or a parent or a sibling or someone you ran into in a totally circumstantial situation. And we hold on to those things and we internalize them and we let them become our narrative. And so I'm actually reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself right now. Joanna is too. it helps us see these things for what they are, not a part of our true identity, but a reflection of our habits, behaviors, actions, and choices up until this point. That technically they don't define us. We are not those things. We can be completely separate from those things. And so if you're listening, just kind of reflecting on what Joanna's question and what I'm thinking about is this something that's internal to me that is motivated by some deeper voice or some deeper sense of knowing or some deeper why? And then what am I feeling when it comes to the circumstantial? Are those outside voices? Are they my voices? Are they fear? Are they doubt? Are they insecurity? Are they based in some of those things that I've picked up over time? And then what makes the most sense for me? Am I doing what I want and what I choose? Or am I feeding into external pressure, expectation, and validation? Because we often look for validation. We were just talking about that, Kathi, in terms of needing and seeking validation from others to tell us what we can and cannot do, even though we know what we're going to do. So can you talk a little bit about that, actually? Because I think that as business owners, we are decision makers. We have to decide, am I going to choose this type of launch sequence? Am I going to be on this type of platform? What am I going to do today with my time? How am I choosing my collaborators, my partners? What is worth my time and energy? Can you talk about that decision-making process and how either you've moved through it in the past or how you've helped clients move through that decision-making?
Yeah, so good. And I love too how you were talking, what you were talking about a couple seconds ago too, about just being able to listen to your intuition with things. And I always tell people that if you don't ever really, like in your business or even in just life in general, if you feel extremely comfortable all the time and you never really feel like that pit in your stomach, like, oh, this is kind of a bold move. Oh, that's kind of a bold thing to say or a decision to make or whatever it is, then you're definitely playing too small and you're letting your limiting beliefs keep you right where you are. And you want to feel that feeling of, oh gosh, I feel like I'm going to throw up. You know, I always say if you feel that way, if something makes you that nervous and that you should just do it, that's like a little signal to just go for it and do it, because your brain will literally do whatever it can in its power to keep you comfortable and safe and make no changes, even if you're miserable in like the relationship you're in the job you have, in the business you're running, whatever it is, it will do whatever it can to produce that fear in you so that you don't do anything different. It doesn't want you to do anything different. It's just it's a protection mechanism. And in terms of your day to day with your business, just listening to yourself. So I think it's really important that you have, I always work off of a list, for example, of the most, important income producing activities that you can do that you enjoy doing. And really making sure that you're doing those things first in your day with whatever time that you have available, right? So like some of us are doing their business full time. Some of us have multiple kids and they're also working a job and building their business on the side, or there's so many different things. Everybody has a different life, but at the end of the day, you have to make sure that you're listening to what are the things in your business that you can do that you do well, that you actually enjoy and love. And I mean, I don't know if anybody lives by the beach who's listening to this, but for me, since I live in Florida, it is really easy for me to just, I drop the kids off at school. And if sometimes I'm just unsure with what I should do next, it just helps to get outside in nature. Even if you don't live by the beach, right? Just getting outside and just feeling the sunshine on your face and just no phone, no music, no TV, no distractions, and really thinking about what it is that you need to do next. You don't need to ask anybody else, right? And I know we were just talking about this a little bit before at the beginning, but you already know what you need to do. And this idea that you have and the business that you have, this was all given to you for a reason, which means that you have everything you need inside of you right now to build it to a successful level and actually enjoy the process and be happy and have confidence and feel pride in what you're doing. So just getting clear and just getting quiet, going out into nature. I will sit by the beach for a good 30 minutes in the morning before I come home and work. And I'll just kind of set my intention for the day. That's where I say some affirmations, set my intention for the day, think about my business. What's the next best thing that I should do? I know we're just coming off of this business event, right? So it's sometimes when you're going to these business events, you can have all of these different ideas in your mind, and it's like, can be overwhelming. You don't want to do all of those things. What are the top 1 or 2 things that I could take from that to apply to my business to help bring it to the next level? So I think those things will really help you if you're in that situation.
Those are such kind of really great takeaways, like figuring out how to prioritize your time with the things that make the biggest impact. When you're a business owner, like that's a huge part of what you do. And if you are working a corporate job, if you want to move to your higher levels in a corporate setting, being able to prioritize the projects and the things that are going to make a big impact, that is an important skill. As a business owner, prioritizing the projects and things that'll make an impact, that's a big skill. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're likely a doer, right? Like checking things off the list, getting things done is oftentimes like in your nature. You got there by being that type of person. I think, Kathi, you got your initial business success by being a doer. And so it can be really hard to actually recognize that you need to prioritize things like intention setting, like your mental health, your internal work. Like that can be hard to do because it's not something you just like check off a list. I mean, you could, you could be like, you could make a list of all of the things that you should do and check them off, but like to really be good at it and really be that like a magnetizing press, all of those things you need to work on are things that are hard to check off a list. And I'm a person that's very, very good. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it and check it off the list. Whereas taking time to be intentional and doing those things, that's harder for me to do naturally. But I know that it is so important and it's something I'm getting so much better at, right, over
Yeah, so
time.
true.
But if you're in your business and you feel like you're in a hamster wheel and you're like, I'm doing all the things, I'm not growing, or I'm not growing in relation to inflation. Like, what is happening? I need to do something different. Maybe doing less and giving yourself space for this mindset work is going to be the thing that like opens the faucet for you.
Oh, yeah. It's so important. I mean, I know even personally, like for myself, just like I said, getting out in nature every single day. It's not even my workout. It's just more so getting out there to just get some deep breaths in, clear my mind, set my intention, and I work out every day because that is like free therapy, right? It makes you feel so good. It gets your endorphins going, helps you have more confidence and positivity throughout your day. Tons of water, not looking at your phone first thing in the morning when you wake up and letting all of the external BS of the world consume your mind before you take care of yourself first. That's really important too. I think that's probably the most important one, is making sure you take care of your internal mental state first before you just go all of a sudden open the doors and let all the other BS of the world come in, right? Then it's too late. And if you can start your day that way, really just prioritizing your mental health and your mindset first, then as life happens during the day and things happen out of your control, you are so much more equipped and, so much more equipped to take care of that and handle that in an appropriate way versus if you hadn't.
I've been tuning into a lot for myself is this idea and concept of personal power. And I think we, especially as women, have so often given our personal power away, whether that's time, whether that's energy, whether that's belief systems, whether that's, again, absorbing those things that we've been taught, told, informed of throughout our lives to dictate how we're being in the world today. And so this taking of your personal power back, and that has everything to do with how you show up in your life. And I know that we can very often blame. They didn't respect my boundaries. I didn't have the time. This thing happened that I couldn't control, and then therefore I wasn't able to get up and do my meditation, or whatever we're using as like an excuse or an opportunity to blame. We have to recognize that we can take the radical responsibility for ourselves and grab our personal power back, take it back, Own the fact that we get to decide, we get to choose, especially as business owners, as entrepreneurs, how we invest our time, how we invest our energy, how we invest what we're thinking about, our minds, where we spend 24/7, and where that attention and energy is going. And then, of course, we get into energy and frequency, and that's like a whole other discussion that we're going to have at some point. There's so much to personal power that I am every single day owning up to and waking up to the fact that like, oh, no matter what has happened in the past, I have gotten myself up into this point. And the circumstances that I have, good, bad, or otherwise, are what they are. And to bring it back to that conversation of neutrality is that we cannot look at our quote unquote successes, quote unquote failures, quote unquote launches that made a lot of money, quote unquote things that didn't make any money, our flops, all of those things. We cannot look at them and have them be any more than what they are. Information, data, neutral events that we can look to learn from and move forward from, but not let them define us. So as we start to wrap up this conversation, Kathi, do you have any final thoughts for our listeners, parting words in which they can either get started when it comes to mindset or places to take their time and energy now that can help support them overcome these limiting beliefs that they might be holding on to?
That I can give them, and I really think that they would love it. I think it would help them tremendously. And it's a free workbook, and it's called Think This, Not That. And you can go to kathireuter.com/think this, not that. And it's a free workbook that has 19 of the most common negative limiting beliefs that people think on repeat, and what you can replace that limiting belief with and think instead, the more empowering belief. Because at the end of the day, if you can break that cycle, you have that initial limiting belief in your mind right now that I can't do this. Who am I to have this success? These goals are too lofty. Just be grateful. You only have that thought right now because of a habit. You formed the habit of thinking it so long that now it's just in your subconscious and you think it on autopilot all day, every day. So you can learn a new way of thinking. This is how you can start to reprogram your mind for success by catching yourself in the moment of when you're thinking that and replacing it with the new limiting belief. And if you practice that over and over again, then your mind will start to become wired for success. And then that's when you can start to get different results around you, because everything that you have around you today, everything, relationships, the money in your bank account, the way that, your health and fitness, whatever it is, it's all a result of the thoughts that you've had from your past. So if you want to improve in an area of your life, and it's different for everyone, but if you want to improve in an area of your life for the future, then that means that we just need to change the thoughts of today. And so that is a really great place for people to start. I think it'll be really helpful. You can download it, you can carry it around with you and just start to, number one, become aware of the thoughts. And number two, break that cycle and start to replace them with a more empowering belief system. And you will start to attract more abundance into your life and more of the things that you want into your life.
Thank you so much. This conversation has lit up my heart today. I have more to do, and I'm going to go through the rest of my day.
Oh, that's so nice.
Feeling wonderful. I'd love for you to share with our listeners. I hope that everybody goes and checks out that freebie and goes through that process. But if they want to connect with you somewhere online to learn more about you, stay in touch with you, is there a good place for them to connect?
Yeah, sure. You can go to kathireuter.com and you'll have my Do Life Big podcast is on there. My Instagram handle, Catherine Reuter, is on there. Email and all of it is right on kathireuter.com.
Fabulous. We'll link all that up in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kathi, for joining us today. This mindset piece is critically important as you expand into your entrepreneurial business ownership coaching journey, because really what you're doing with business is personal development. And that undercuts and underlies how you show up. We were just at a business retreat this weekend, and one of the things that we discussed is that the more that you grow, your business will grow. And that is so true to kind of tap into and tune into, especially if you feel like you've been in this cycle of doing, but nothing is shifting, nothing is changing. So something to think about. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. Find the link in the show notes to join us in the Her First Collective, a free Facebook group to discuss the podcast, ask questions of our guest experts, and network with a group of female entrepreneurs who value collaboration over competition.
Please subscribe, share, leave a review, and be sure to catch our next episode. What is one thing you can do today to prioritize you in business and life?